the House was able to pass last night, this Build Back Better plan, $2 trillion.
The House Democrats themselves had to get over internal fighting in order to get their bill passed, because for a lot of them, this wasn't enough.
There are a bunch of sophisticated outfits that have put out scores on this. Guess what the lowest, the most conservative score on this? It's the Congressional Budget Office. I mean, the other scores are somewhere between $4 trillion and $5 trillion for actual costs, because they don't believe the federal government when they say we're going to sunset these programs after 5 years. Of course they're not going to sunset them. They never do. So the real cost is going to be more than $4 trillion.
How do you respond to Republicans today that say Democrats lied to the American public when they said this plan costs $0, when the CBO says it at least adds $160 billion to the debt?
Too much data. Let's just not present what the Republicans say as any fact that you're predicating a question on. I mean, understand what's happening around here, okay?
We just talked about that it wasn't some Republican fact. It's the Congressional Budget Office, and it was moderate Democrats saying they're waiting for that score.
The score came back, Jordan, and it said what Republicans said. It's going to be hugely expensive. It's going to be high taxation. And the third whammy, it's going to add to the deficit. The CBO agreed, and her members voted for it anyway.
She gets pressed again for the speeches.
You used to hold the record for the longest floor speech. How do you feel about that being broken, and do you plan to try to take that back?
No, I barely noticed. But that's not what we're here to talk about. This is about serious business here.
They laugh about floor speech numbers when they're talking about spending $2 trillion more dollars at a time where there's rapid inflation, problems with our entire infrastructure when it comes to the supply chain. And by the way, they've got
like for Christmas. I mean,
they got no
very
answers
difficult getting.
They got no answers for you, is what Biden says for short-term solution. And then on top of all of that,
the inflation rate right now is the highest I think they said in 30 years.
This is not funny. I mean, the CBO score came out late afternoon, and she wanted to put the vote on the floor to spend what is going to be north of $4 trillion just a few hours later. So you had the House version of a filibuster, Leader McCarthy speaking for 8.5 hours. Look, she can disagree with Leader McCarthy, Jordan, but it's not funny, and it's the American people that are going to pay the price.
$80 billion to the IRS to hire 87,000 new enforcement agents. Now, we did get a victory out of this because the House, if there was any place that they were going to try to slip this language in, it would have been in the House.
The issue we were concerned about that we raised, I testified before a congressional hearing, was this $600 a month and then became, $800 a month and then $10,000 over the course of a year, ability for the IRS to have your bank spying, for the IRS on your transactions. Thann, that is out of this legislation.
That IRS snooping provision, had it ended up in the House version originally passed, I think it would have been very difficult to remove. So even though there's going to be challenges going forward, getting that most problematic provision out of the House bill, Jay, that's really a huge win in the midst of a trying night here.
But the power grab by the IRS. So I think it's important to point out, Thann, they're getting $80 billion new dollars. That is not that far off from their yearly budget right now. It's almost as if we are doubling the size of the IRS.
If you hire 87,000 agents with the $45 billion of enforcement that's in the bill, each agent, Jordan, would have more than $500,000 a year to conduct audits. So what that means is a whole bunch of people that never met the threshold or the risk level before for getting an audit are going to get an audit.
Now it goes to a tougher place. That's the 50-50 divided U.S. Senate. And it's not just one Democrat senator, but two who have expressed a lot of concern about the amount of spending here, the inflation going on in our country right now, and whether this is the best way to tackle that.
They're going to have to come up with something that satisfies all 50 senators, including both the progressives like Bernie Sanders and then Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema. But here's the thing, Jordan. They've got to do that while simultaneously satisfying Senate budgetary rules known as the bird bath. And, Jordan, they've got to pass something that can go back to this House that just passed this narrow version and pass the new version. So there's a lot of hurdles ahead.
They are falling into that direct trap of pushing legislation the American people don't want, that some people in their own party don't even want. And this happened to President Obama. Vice President Biden should remember what happens when you do this before midterm elections.